The meeting of the Albany County Legislature's Finance Committee. First item up is, I'm going to take number 14 out of order for Larry. Death in the family, our condolences to you.
Thank you very much.
14 is amending the Department of Residential Health Care Facilities budget, administrative adjustments. This is for a fiscal officer. Motion by Mr. Signoracci, second by Mr. Clay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you, and again, our
Thank you very
condolences
much.
to your family.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Number 1, approving of previous minutes. Motion by Mr. Signoracci, second by Mr. Kraus. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. We're going to table 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Number 6, Mr. Reinhardt, local law of Albany County creating a limited exemption for real property taxes for qualified conservation easements, exemptions agreeing with the town of Bethlehem. Would you like to speak to it?
Just briefly.
Thank you.
This is based on some enabling legislation that was passed by the state. There were a couple other jurisdictions in the state that have already adopted this. And what it allows us to do is, and we've already passed it at the town level, so what we're actually asking here is for the county to opt in. So the town and the Board of Education, the school board for Bethlehem have already opted into this, and we're asking the county to opt into this as well. I suppose the most important issue here is that this does not create any fiscal impact on the rest of the counties because there's an add-back feature that says other Bethlehem taxpayers cover any revenue reduction that comes from the large property owners who take these easements in exchange for reducing their tax rates. There is a schedule. Mark had asked me about it. It's actually based on the state law. And we have a conservation easement board that reviews every application from a large landowner, whether or not they want to, go in the process. And basically what it's doing is there's a sliding scale of benefit that correlates to how long the property owner voluntarily is agreeing not to develop the land. So that's why it's an open space law. And it's basically saying that large property owners can voluntarily get a reduction in their property taxes in exchange for keeping their property out of development for a certain number of years. And it goes anywhere from 15 years to forever.
Thank you. Any questions? Frank?
Yes, I have a question, Bill. Guilderland School District takes in part of Bethlehem. Those people that are in that part of Bethlehem do not qualify for this, am I correct? Because Guilderland did not buy in. And the same with Queens Ravina.
You mean the school district?
That's correct.
The school district budget is, yes, for those, for people who live in the town of Bethlehem and their kids go to school in either Guilderland or RCS, their property taxes paid to the town are affected by this already, but their school taxes are not.
Yeah, but they wouldn't get this benefit. Because the school has to buy in to this program, and they haven't bought in, is my understanding.
Well, what it means is they don't benefit from any of the shifting of the school taxes that kind of would happen if they bought in. So what it means
That's
is
basically what I'm saying.
Yeah, what it means is if you have a large property owner in either the RCS territory or the Guilderland territory, the only benefit they get is the taxes that they pay to the town. If the school districts opt in, like they did for the Bethlehem School District, then you get the benefit relative to your school taxes as well.
I follow you.
So when the school system, if the school systems don't ultimately opt in, then it means the large landowners in those territories will get a reduction on the town taxes, but not a reduction on the others. That's why we're making the effort here in the county to have that county opt in, because even though the school taxes and the town taxes are the more significant taxes, it does add to the level of overall benefit that the large property owner gets if all of the different local jurisdictions opt in.
Yeah, but if they haven't opted in already, based on what they've heard, no matter what we do here, they're not gonna opt in after that. It's-
Well, that's
they're
not
gonna-
necessarily the case.
Well, that's necessarily the case right now. That's what's on the
No,
table.
what it means is they haven't opted in yet. But in fact, the fact that if the county were to opt in, it might actually create more interest on the part of those two school districts.
I
Mr.
have my
Joyce?
doubts, but go ahead.
I'm gonna pass for now.
Mr. Kraus?
Yes, Bill, I'm curious, once the determination is made that there is an additional tax burden on the citizens because landowners are taking advantage of it and you have to make up the county tax, once that is arrived at, what formula will be used to determine what each taxpayer, the additional taxes that taxpayer is responsible for? So if I have a residential home and it's an acre, right, and someone down the street has a residential home and it's 3 acres, will there be a disproportionate division of my burden? Now, let's say there's $1 million that has to be made up, I'm just using numbers.
Yeah.
In taxes, how do you determine what the responsibility of each taxpayer will be based upon that $1 million?
Well, let's take your example of the 10 acres versus the 3 acres. And again, I'm making a number up.
Yes, number.
But so the 10 acres is 2 million value, let's say, and the 3 acres is 1 million. The 10 acres would see their rate go up, based on the calculations that the town has looked at in terms of what might happen. If everybody we think who would be eligible for this, which is large landowners who don't want to still, want to, get the easement, which is clearly not all the large landowners. But making realistic assumptions, the average home in Bethlehem, whose assessed value is around, I think, $260,000 now, it was last year. Their tax burden would go up $1. These other examples, you'd multiply, it'd be a multiple of that. Assuming in the examples of 2 million and 1 million, if a $250,000 home is $1 as average, then $1 million would be $4. 10 acres would be double that.
So the town will use some sort of a formula.
Well, basically, whether you're talking about the taxes that the town needs or the taxes in our case that the county needs, the total dollars generated stays the same.
No, I understand
So
that.
that's why we're not, that's the add-back feature, so we're not creating more taxes for people throughout the rest of it.
Outside the
Yeah, So it's basically raising it's keeping the levy obligation the same, and then it's just gonna, it's gonna be a function of spreading evenly across the other taxpayers, so that if you've got two examples, if one is $100,000 versus 200, it's gonna be double one case versus the other. But the calculations for the average home,
Our property taxes
it
go
wouldn't
up
be
over 10
more than $1 a year.
They're not locked in a certain
It's
rate.
not- It's not the amount, I guess, it's the logistics
Subsidizing these funds.
of how you're going to do that. So when I get my tax bill, if I get my tax bill, there'll be a line on there that says basically, because of the shortfall, your additional tax levy will be $1 or $2.
I don't know if there's gonna be a line on there, I think it's just gonna be, here's all the revenue that we need, and your house is this percentage of the assessed base, just like now.
So
when
it'll
you
be that
create
much
a-
more, basically.
Yeah,
Your bill will go up, it'll just be a percentage of whatever.
Yeah. I mean, frankly, we don't think anybody's really gonna notice it, because it's such a small
Lost my
number,
question now.
given what we think is the.
Okay,
and the other
Mr.
point-
Joyce, thank you. Mr. Joyce?
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll move this out tonight, but I can't say when to support this on the floor on Monday or when it goes to the legislature. I'm concerned about the tax. I mean, the city of Albany has no real buildable space. We rely on, as far as the suburbs of Albany County. So, to build on our tax levy, the only hope we have is to develop outside Albany, the city of Albany. I understand the residents of Bethlehem are willing to pay an extra dollar in their taxes. I believe your supervisor agreed, or they surveyed the town, they said they'd be willing to pay an extra $25. So, I'll move this out tonight, but I don't know if it's,
Well, I don't understand your concern. It doesn't
I don't know if it's a
affect
win for the
city.
city. I know it doesn't affect the city, but it does affect Albany County as a whole. When you talk about, the tax levy, you're not, basically, we're locking this land up, so it will not be developed, correct?
Yeah, it's either from 15 years to forever.
Or 90.
However, let me make this point. You can make the argument that if we and the other suburban communities were to all do this, which is a sentiment that I have heard across the county, that could actually encourage more development in the city. So you can look at this
We don't
as-
have the footprint in the city to build, though, is the problem. We have some space, but not as much as we do in the
Well,
suburbs.
I actually would respectfully disagree. You'll see redevelopment going on all over the country in urban areas, and often what it is it's the millennials, people like my kids, who are choosing to live in urban areas. And what that means is you take developed land and you redevelop it into something else, and that has higher value.
Well,
So that's how it
Yeah.
could actually help all of the
Yeah,
city.
and I see your point, but you're saying Bethlehem residents are willing to pay an extra dollar in their taxes, or whatever the value is,
But to who, and what is that money gonna be used for?
and would they be willing to pay an extra $5? Or maybe 10? Because I heard the number went up to as high as 25 that they'd be willing to pay for in additional taxes. So it's just, I gotta think about this more before we vote on it. I'll move it out tonight, but it's something that.
Well, I'd be
I think
happy
it's-
to continue the conversation. I mean, it should have no negative effect on the tax
Right.
payment.
Okay, thank you.
For others.
Now, the land itself, who's receiving a public benefit with the tax breaks, do those lands become public for public use?
It is something that
Private owned.
is addressed in their proposal to the Conservation Easement Board.
private.
And in general, that is the expectation that that will be the case.
Okay,
It doesn't mean that necessarily somebody will be able to camp overnight.
no, but they have access to it.
Yeah, the idea is that there would be access. It's different from an agricultural exemption in that way.
Right. Any other questions?
That's the idea, it's not mandated, correct?
Not mandated
The
what?
the landowner who's taking advantage of this is not mandated to make that property available for public use.
It's a voluntary program, so they propose to the town, this is what we are willing to do. And then the town and the landowner come to an agreement about what that means. What does the easement
So
mean?
it could be different for every single time.
It could be, I mean, I think that's the flexibility of it.
Got it,
Yeah.
thank you.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your spirited stewardship of this. It's a good cause. From a town perspective, there is a need to establish some kind of plan for green space, because if we overdevelop, there's significant problems there. But there are some, I want to give you opportunity publicly, we've had quite a bit of discussion, but I want to give you opportunity publicly to answer my concerns. Number one, philosophically, this is a tax shift. It's not a tax break, it's a tax shift from people who have a large piece of property to the people who don't, because they don't have the option of opting in for land conservation. How do you respond to that philosophically?
Well, I guess I would actually cite what Ray mentioned, is that the town has done a survey and it shows that the general populace is willing to pay a little extra for space. And so it's call it a bottom-up policy decision, that the public is willing to do this. Now, I've said before, this could be a model for other parts of the county, for other suburban communities. And if Colony wanted to do it, and if Colony decided as a body, as a polity, that they want to do that, then that would make sense for them to proceed. If they did a similar survey and they had totally different results, then the answer would be, well, maybe that's not what they want, and that would be the end of it in Colony, or...
They did a survey, they didn't do a vote?
They did a survey.
A survey can be twixt any way you want. How come they didn't do a vote?
I don't think they needed a vote. The town
Well,
board had-
you need a
the
vote
town
to
board
judge
had-
what the voters are thinking and the constituents are thinking.
Mike, can I add to that? On the
Yeah,
survey?
yeah, sure.
Because I'm sure the survey questions did not include, are you okay with the 90% tax break that your neighbor is getting and you're not getting any? Because that's really what's happening. This is up to 90% of the tax break. And it's very significant, and I don't think the people of Bethlehem are fully cognizant that they would get zero and their neighbor would get 90%, because that is in fact the case. And I'd like to put that,
They don't get zero.
put that as a survey question.
Wait, you say that again, they would get zero and the landowner?
Yeah, if you're not eligible, you get zero tax break. But if you're eligible, you get up to a 90% tax break on a variety of taxes. We're talking real money here, and I'm wondering if the good residents of Gilman are fully cognizant of that's the deal that's
Gilman.
being proposed.
I would say that most of them would be aware of that. Any of them who pay attention to what the town board does and the issue of whether it's discussed in the spotlight, et cetera. And in the survey, I think they were aware of what the trade-off is. Now, remember, this is not being promoted as a tax break for everybody. This is promoted as an open space program. And the population in Bethlehem wants more open space. They are very concerned about too much development. And frankly, it's the level of agitation, if you will, or public displeasure expressed. And I know this because I was on the town board several years ago, for a couple of years, that the level of development that we have now is actually less than the heyday of the 60s and 70s and 80s, and leading right up to the Great Recession. But there's not that much open land left now, because we've developed so much with a suburban sprawl. And so there's a sense now that, okay, now we have to be more careful. And so even though the total level of development is not that great, the remaining developable land is so reduced that the public is very concerned about this issue.
So then why doesn't the town board wind up voting to do a moratorium on further development? As opposed to having the county legs get involved with this. And second part is the revenue.
Wait, I don't understand that question.
Well, why doesn't the town board, where it used to sit on, pass the moratorium to limit any sort of expansion or building upon green space?
Why do that?
Why? Why not? That's their purview to wind up doing it.
Well, they could do anything. I mean,
They
we
could.
could vote to raise taxes, and
Well,
we
you
try not
could
to.
vote to do that. And the second question,
But why, I mean, why would we want to do that?
well, why would you
To
want
stop development
to stop development?
and preserve the land.
You could wind up doing this
I
all on the
think
town board.
my understanding is if a town board votes that way, they end up in court because this is a country of private property. And if I'm the developer who bought a piece of land with the idea of developing, and the town passes a permanent moratorium,
You don't have to do it permanent. You could wind up doing it for a year and then renew it, and then do it for another year and renew it. There's a lot of ways that you can do
we
it.
think that's actually more disruptive.
And what's the money gonna be used for, the revenue that's gonna be used for this?
There is no revenue.
They said that there's gonna be an extra tax that people are gonna wind up paying to keep their land.
No. It's making it whole. In other words, the tax obligations that the county imposes on Bethlehem, that the town imposes on Bethlehem, that the Bethlehem School District imposes on Bethlehem taxpayers, those levies, in other words, the total money generated stays the same. So as Mark says, there is a shift that goes from a few, not many, we know it's not many, large property owners, their taxes go down, and then the other taxpayers go up. But the math of this is that for a very, very few number of large property owners, it's a benefit to them, and they're willing to voluntarily do this
Just
to
have one more
save,
question, I just gotta ask.
to keep the land open in exchange for what for them can be an impactful reduction. For the rest of the taxpayers, which is the great majority of taxpayers in the town, it might be if everybody who could chooses to preserve their land. And we don't really expect that they will.
Can you email a copy of that survey out?
I can ask John Clarkson to mail one out.
Ask them before the meeting, because if not, if we don't get it, I'll ask the chairman to send it back to committee and not move on it.
Mr. Joyce?
Yeah, what generated this was a lot of the large property owners, the taxes had gone up in Bethlehem, correct? And they were unable to afford to hold these big swaths of land. That's what kind of started this?
That is definitely one of the factors.
Okay, and they were selling these farms to make residential developments and things, correct? And they were trying to avoid
Well,
that?
just to be clear, not selling farms.
Or land?
Because if it's a farm, it has an agricultural exemption, which is
Right, or-
still in place and doesn't really get affected by this. What it does do is, it might preserve some land that is not currently being farmed, which could in fact be farmed in the future. I mean, this is one of my pet things about bringing back agriculture, and I think it's possible. Once the land is developed, it will never be agriculture again. But what we have in Bethlehem is a lot of land that's open, but not actively being farmed right now. And we don't want to lose that development, because then it never comes back.
Right, but this,
To agriculture.
okay, so this started with a land issue where people were, losing, we had old family farms, I understand, or, large plots of
Yeah,
family
that
land.
definitely is a factor,
Okay.
and so we were trying to be responsive to that issue.
Mr. Kraus?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Bill, if I understand, just to build upon Ray's question, part of the problem here is that because the taxes on these large parcels have gone up, landowners have a problem meeting the tax burden. So, one way to alleviate that situation is to sell your land to a developer. Because the town has increased your taxes and placed you in a difficult situation. So
Yeah,
the
and
town
that
takes some
is-
responsibility for
Yeah,
this,
and
right?
that is going to happen.
Well, I think it has happened, right?
Yeah,
So in a
Well, I
way,
mean,
the
yes.
town is responsible for driving this situation to the point where these folks can't afford to pay the taxes anymore. So now they want to sell it to the developer, but the town says, wait a minute, we want open space.
I'm fine with that.
But because we
Yeah.
raised your
Seconded,
taxes,
or making the motion.
you're faced with a situation of having to get rid of your property. So now, you're giving them another out, well, okay, you're raising taxes, so now we're gonna get you out of there by giving you a tax break. And to Mark's
Yeah,
point
yeah.
of saying, well, the neighbor's gonna find out
Yeah, just want to get
that
to
you
the
got
floor.
the tax break and he didn't. Not only didn't he get the tax break, but he's gonna have to make up the difference of your tax
It was
break.
quicker.
well,
Yeah, it will be
typically,
minimal.
those
I
two
would say
20
neighbors
minutes of
probably have the same option, but in
Well-
terms of somebody who lives in Old Delaware.
Right, I
He's killing
understand.
them.
really don't care, I'm
Doesn't
just
mean they're next
paying you
door
back.
necessarily.
Thank you. We have a motion by Mr. Joyce to move it out without recommendation. Second by Mrs. Sikarachi, all in favor?
All right,
Opposed? Thank you.
The laughter, just to clarify, the laughter was not about the debate between Mr. Kraus and Mr.
Well, that's good, because I was starting.
Gary.
We're going to group 7, 8, 9. These are the contracts with CSEA.
so moved.
Second by Mr. Joyce. All in favor?
Aye.
Grouping them. Okay, 7, 8, 9 are the CSEA contract, negotiated by the county executive, voted on by their membership, and it's before us, unanimous of personnel. Any questions?
I do, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I noticed from reading some of that some employees, some retirees, they don't have to pay anything for their health insurance, is that true?
That is correct. There are some out there that do not.
So even though the increases, what is the family health care plan cost in Holmes County?
Roughly 23,000, roughly.
23,000, so that's a huge benefit.
That's in our rules though, already.
Yeah, but you gotta realize too, you're talking long-term employees 30 years ago, that applies to.
Yeah, but we
Not-
still
Well,
pay for the
30 years
cost.
ago, they worked in Albany County for $10,000 a year. I mean, the benefit, they have to, or less.
But the benefit is increasing every year. just
Well, the
like-
benefit was the health insurance policy that we had. That's why people came to work for Albany County. And we're talking retirees. Probably not I'll bet there's not a lot of them either that are at that level.
At that level, no.
It's- I know
Get
it's
you a
changed.
list.
Fewer every year.
When they started
Yeah.
county service. And obviously, the county recognized we can't keep doing this, because healthcare is $23,000 a year.
Yeah,
But I
yeah,
understand it's
yeah.
sort of set
The
in
new
stone.
people are 90%, 15%, 85%. New people are 85%.
85 overall.
And 90 is for some of, but you're going back probably 20, 30 years to those long-term employees, retirees now. 88, that's a long
But
time.
even those employees now that work 20 years, it's in our book of rules, employee handbook, that they get free healthcare. And it was changed probably 2001, 2000, somewhere around there. Maybe 2009, don't hold me to the year, but it went from 10 to 20. So that was.
And let's keep in mind, these people are over 65, so this is a supplement,
Medicare.
so they're not paying the 23,000, probably paying 4,000 or 5,000.
Supplement Medicare.
Yeah, it's supplementing Medicare, so. If you're a young family, you're paying 85% of that 23,000. Any other questions? So we're gonna vote on 7, 8, and 9. Motion to move it, Mr. Signorachi, second. Mr. Clay, all in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, thank you. Number 10 is amending the Children, Youth, and Family Service Administrative Adjustments. This is this is a program for 92% state-funded program.
Correct, the
There
position.
are
is-
other, is it a position?
Yes.
Any questions? Motion to move it, Mr. Signorachi, second. Mr. Simpson, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, thank you.
Thank you.
Number 11, amending the 2017 health budget administrative adjustments, new public health nurse. They're very busy, 36% state-funded, 64% county-funded. Motion by Signorachi, Mr. Grimm.
Thank you. This is creating a new position. That always catches my attention when I see that in government. Can you explain the circumstances of how that position is created vis-a-vis, my understanding, there's another line that you didn't have somebody in there?
That's correct. What this is a position that exists in the sanitary code, so it's not like something that was just created de novo. And it's a position for a nurse that requires a little bit more supervisory support and programmatic work. We're finding as we expand some of our programs and services, for example, the work that we're doing with asthma, in particular pediatric asthma in our high-needs neighborhoods, there are certifications that people need to get, asthma certification, to work with pediatricians, and to have somebody that is going to be able to address that in a programmatic manner will be advantageous in the department.
Is there no way of meeting the same need with the current level of employees?
Well, it's a different level. The other thing that is important to consider is that I know that this and other committees have heard of the concerns that we have attrition with our very skilled nursing staff. There are a lot of higher paying jobs in our area, both at the State Health Department and in clinical medicine, that are pulling a lot of our employees out. We also have nurses that have been working for us for 20 years who are not paid a whole lot more than nurses that are newly hired. So this position creates a level that's a little bit above the public health nurse position. So there's a programmatic need for it, and there's also a need to maintain staffing that we have, because we are losing a lot of nursing staff. We have a lot of challenges with hiring and retaining nurses. And public health nurses are a pretty select breed of nurses. They have to be baccalaureate prepared, they have to have additional skills and training, and this would require above and beyond the skills that we have in the public health nurse, so that they would be able to implement things from a programmatic standpoint.
Okay, well, I just hope that, we generate real value for anytime we create new positions. It's essential that we generate real value.
Absolutely.
We don't want her work for the county.
Agreed.
You could afford her, she's going to work though. Any other questions?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Clay, second by Mr. Signorachi, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We couldn't afford her.
I don't want another article.
That's right. She turned down, that was offered $120. Amending the 2017, wrong one. Number 13, authorizing agreement with Arcadius of New York regarding engineering and consulting services for the regional biosolid handling facility.
So moved.
Miss 20.
Oh, 12. You know what? Number 12, the 2017 Department of Water Purification District Budget, Administrative Adjustments. This is budget neutral.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Duraci, second by Mr. Joyce, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, thank you. Number 13 is the Arcadia product regarding engineering and consultant services for the biosolids handling facility, which is at the sewer district. This was unanimous. Water Purification District. Unanimously by their board, committee for the sewer district board. Any questions?
So moved.
Motion by, yes, Mr. Grimm.
Anaerobic digestion, is that
Yes.
when the bugs eat up the sludge? Is that what we're talking about here?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, this is a pretty important step here. Could you elaborate a little more on what you hope to do here?
Well, presently, we incinerate biosolids. Okay, that is our form of secondary treatment, and we end up with a residual biosolids, remediated ash, that we presently are sending to the landfill for ultimate disposal. They use it for daily cover. This is a different form. We're seeing that, in 2015, the regulations changed where we were forced into the sewage sludge incinerator rule, which is incorporated into Title V. The regulations are much stricter, requiring a lot more monitoring, a lot more effort. We have 50-year-old equipment at this point, incinerators that we have been investing in. We have a project that just got awarded for $500,000 for the rebuild on one of them. This would allow us to handle our biosolids in a different manner, anaerobic digestion, which our industry is moving to more and more. Probably at least 90% of the industry is gone in this direction. It's more environmentally friendly. We are looking to have an end product of a Class A biosolids, which we hope will find a market for, and use probably, trying to compost it or something of that nature. So this is an opportunity too for us. We did a feasibility study at both plants looking at this, and we found that by combining our two plants together, it would be more economically feasible to move in this direction, but it was still very high for our ratepayers. We reached out to Saratoga County, which we knew they had shut their incinerator down already, and they were trucking it to Seneca Meadows at a cost of about $1.5 to $2 million a year. They're very interested in pursuing this venture with us, and this study itself is going to look at the governance structure and our two feasibility studies to see if we could bring this together and make it very economical for both counties.
It isn't Saratoga County sharing the cost of the study with us?
Yes.
25,
Yes,
$100,000.
it's $100,000.
25 is our cost,
Yeah.
25 and that's sort of 50.
Exactly.
You're a big consumer of electricity.
Yes,
Are
we
you
are.
not? So part of the goal here is to create your own energy to help lessen that?
Presently, we have an organic Rankine cycle system that we recover heat from our incinerator, and we generate power up to 450 kW when we're running it. Our feasibility study focused, saying that we have this already on site. We want to be able to use it with digester gas, and the study showed that this, while it is not the best method to use, it can be incorporated in this, and we should be able to generate power.
And the study, the goal is to have the study tell you how to do it, basically, or present the plan? And then
We know that it can work in our industry. That's already proven with most of them doing it. What we're looking at is can we formulate the governance structure of it, and also what exactly is out there available in high-strength organic waste to remove that from landfills and the like, and be able to also use that to produce power.
Any other questions? Motion to move it, Mr. Signoracci, second by Mr. Clay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, thank you. Number 15, amending Resolution 149 of 2017, conveying various county-owned parcels to the City of Albany Water Board. This is just a clerical error in the title. Any questions? Motion to move it, Mr. Joyce, second, Mr. Signoracci, all in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. 16 is authorized conveyance of land to the land bank. Any questions? Motion to move it, Mr. Joyce, second by Mrs. Signoracci, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous, thank you. Next one, 17, authorized conveyance of property in Rensselaerville. It's an abutting property owner. Any questions? Motion to move it, Mr. Signoracci, second by Mr. Joyce, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. 18 is authorizing conveyance of property in the town of Colony. It's an abutting property owner. Motion to move it. Mr. Joyce, second by Mr. Sigarachi, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. 19 is authorizing advance of real property in the town of Colony. It's an abutting property owner.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Garachi, second by Mr. Joyce, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. 20 is correction of tax rolls in the city of Albany. It's clerical error. Any questions? Motion by Mr. Clay, second by Mr. Sigarachi, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, thank you. And 21, requesting the state of New York to enact the tax law to authorize Albany County to continue the 1% sales tax.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Sigarachi, second by Mr. Joyce, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, thank you. Motion adjourned, Mr. Sigarachi, second by Mr. Joyce. Thank you.